SMS Dr. Koh Poh Koon.
Mr. Chairman, I will continue along the lines of upgrade, uplift, and uphold outlined by Minister. I will elaborate on how we will upgrade the capabilities of our local workforce, uplift our vulnerable workers, as well as transform our migrant worker ecosystem to support their well-being and resilience. The SG United Jobs and Skills Package and the Jobs Growth Incentive, JGI, were introduced as extraordinary time-bound measures to preserve human capital and expand local hiring amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. The National Job Council's efforts saw more than 174,000 local job seekers placed into jobs and skills opportunities as at end December 2021. The labour market is recovering steadily and unemployment rates continue their downward trend. But we are not completely out of the woods. The COVID-19 situation may yet evolve further. There are segments of the workforce, such as mature workers, that we were more concerned with even before COVID-19, and they have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. Nonetheless, we have made good progress despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Among the close to 509,000 local hires supported through the JGI from September 2020 to August 2021, about half were mature workers. Some mature workers, however, continue to face difficulties in finding permanent jobs. So we will press on with tackling three structural issues. First, vulnerable workers who might need additional support in the hiring process. Second, mature workers who might need help transiting to new job roles. And third, continuing the outreach to job seekers requiring career matching services. In all three areas, some of the schemes launched during the pandemic have been especially useful and valuable in supporting the vulnerable job seeker segments. We will continue to keep them in our toolkit of schemes with some adjustments to their parameters. To address the issue of vulnerable workers who need additional support in the hiring process, we will extend the JGI. As noted by Mr. Ip Hong Weng, the JGI has been effective in encouraging employers to expand on local hiring. It was introduced in September 2020 and has been extended twice since then to March 2022. Close to 509,000 locals were hired into new jobs by 67,000 businesses from September 2020 to August 2021. JGI-eligible employers have continued to hire from a wide pool of job seekers, including half who were not employed at the point of hire. Therefore, we will extend the JGI by another 6 months, from March 2022 to September 2022. But we will concentrate our resources at the more vulnerable job seeker segments, as I've mentioned earlier, namely mature workers not in work for at least 6 months, persons with disabilities, and ex-offenders. In the next phase of JGI, employers of these groups of job seekers will receive up to 40% salary support for the first 6 months and up to 20% for the next 6 months. In line with previous JGI phases, employers should achieve local workforce growth and growth in local workforce earning at least $1,400 a month. This means that eligible employers may receive up to $21,600 per hire over a 12-month period. The JGI will continue to work in concert with other existing structural programs. For instance, to support employment of persons with disabilities, we've introduced the Enabling Employment Credit, which MOS Gan Xiao Huang will elaborate on. Together, these schemes ensure that persons with disabilities continue to be well supported during the economic recovery. We hope that this will encourage employers to give them a chance, to hire them and train them if needed, so that they can eventually form an integral part of your workforce. Mature workers may also need help in making career transitions or re-entering the workforce. Through SG United Mid-Career Pathways Program, we have equipped workers with skills and opportunities to take on new employment. The Company Attachment Program allows employers to take a greater chance on unproven candidates, provide them with on-the-job training, and evaluate their job fit. Even trainees who are not offered the job by the host organization come out of the attachment equipped with skills, experience, and industry contacts. 76% of trainees who completed or exited the attachments found employment as at October 2021. Some mature workers who may continue to face challenges in finding permanent jobs may already have years of experience and would only require some training to take on their intended roles. Hence, we will retain the SG United Mid-Career Pathways Program for mature job seekers. This will complement the deeper reskilling provided by our existing career conversion programs, or CCPs. One such mature worker who was willing to undergo further training is Chan Wan Chuan. As a 45-year-old back-to-work mother who re-entered the workforce in 2020 after 4 years, she enrolled in the program to upskill and improve her employability. I'm glad to note that her positive mindset had paid off, and she has transited well into her role as a technology assurance domain lead in UOB Bank with her newly acquired skills in data analytics. Ms. Rachel Ong and Mr. Liang In Hua have asked for more details on how this scheme will be extended. Mature trainees will continue to receive training allowances of up to $3,800. However, with the recovery of the labour market, we will scale back government funding from 90% to 70%, with the host organizations co-funding 30% of the allowance to the job seekers. To encourage host organizations to hire the trainees earlier if they are found to be a good fit, we will allow host organizations to receive the full support quantum if the trainees were hired at least 3 months into the attachment. Ms. Janet Ang has called on local workers to keep reskilling and to stay relevant, and has highlighted CCPs as a useful way of helping our local workers to do this. I agree with her. The CCP provides employers with substantial salary support when they hire and train mid-career hires for new job roles. Since 2016, Workforce Singapore has placed over 39,000 locals into new job roles through CCPs. We want to continue to do more, but this will require both employers and job seekers to also do their part. I encourage employers to adopt a plug, train, and play mindset and be prepared to train their new hires instead of expecting a perfect fit from the word-go. The CCP and SG United Mid-Career Pathways Program will support you. I also want to encourage job seekers to have a more open mind to new possibilities, new opportunities, and to acquire new skills. To help scale up efforts to reach out to more job seekers, SG United Jobs and Skills Centres were introduced in June 2020 amidst the COVID-19 situation in all of our 24 HDB towns to provide career advisory and coaching services and curate job opportunities available in the vicinity of our job seekers. To ensure that our job matching services remain readily accessible to our job seekers in the heartlands, we will maintain SG United Jobs and Skills Centres in all 24 HDB towns. Besides having career ambassadors deployed to the centres, we will roll out job kiosks and phone advisory services so that we can flexibly deploy career ambassadors while best meeting the needs of our job seekers. We will also continue working with partners to provide more options for local job seekers who are mature, long-term unemployed, or persons with disabilities. We appointed ADECO as a SG United Jobs and Skills Placement Partner in March 2021, and have appointed 2 additional employment agencies, Charterhouse and Good Job Creations, this month. We will not extend the SG United traineeships after it expires in March 2022. The SG United traineeship program was introduced amidst a weak labour market to provide fresh graduates with traineeship opportunities to acquire industry-relevant experience and to build up their skill sets and networks. With the economy recovering, fewer graduates are participating in the scheme, but current trainees will be supported to the end of their traineeships. So I will now move on to how we can drive transformation through working closely with our tripartite partners and industry players to provide greater support for companies and workers in their transformation journey. NTUC shares a close relationship with the government. They champion workers' interests build trust with employers and the government to achieve win-win outcomes. Brother Heng Chee Hao suggested for a tripartite focus to identify priority sectors and occupations for reskilling, especially for elder workers, tapping on NTUC's company training committees or CTCs. As shared by Brother Chee Hong Tat, since April 2019, NTUC has mobilized more than 800 companies to form CTCs and supported companies to develop and implement their transformation plans, including reskilling of workers. This has enabled unions and companies to work together to respond with agility during COVID-19, to pivot company operations to survive, and at the same time to help workers sustain their livelihoods. The efforts of the unions via the CTCs have achieved positive outcomes, and MOM wants to accelerate these efforts to benefit more companies and workers. Mr. Shahril Taha has asked for the resources to support NTUC to scale up the CTCs. The Minister for Finance has shared in a budget speech that we will support NTUC's efforts to scale up to 2,500 CTCs by 2025. This will double the coverage from 250,000 workers today to 500,000 workers in 2025. About $100 million will be set aside to support NTUC. We will invest $28 million to support NTUC to drive this transformation, and another $70 million grant to enable companies to operationalize the transformation plans through the CTCs. Next, I'll talk about our efforts to uplift the different workforce segments, starting with senior workers. As announced during budget, the government will continue to support the retirement adequacy of our seniors by raising the CPF contribution rates. By the time we're done with the full increase around 2030, a 55-year-old member currently earning median salary median income can expect his monthly retirement payouts to be boosted by about 10%. Third, I would like to say a few words in Mandarin.
Please do.
政府一直竭尽所能，不断提升劳动队伍的素质和技能，让每个员工享有更良好的就业前景。接下来，让我把焦点放在年长员工。到了2030年，我国65岁及以上的国民人口将增加近1倍，达到90万人。随着人口老化，善用年长国人所累积的人力资本来维持经济增长是至关重要的。为了让更多有意愿工作的年长员工继续就业，我们将从今年7月1日起，把法定退休年龄从62岁调高到63岁，并且把重新雇佣年龄从67岁提高到68岁。此外，在年满55岁后受雇的员工，只要为雇主工作2年，就有资格重新受雇。根据年长员工劳资政工作小组在2019年提出的建议，我们已经从今年开始调高年长员工的公积金缴交率，并在2023年继续上调。政府将继续为年长国人提供足够的退休保障。到了2030年，目前55岁中位数收入的公积金会员每月的退休入息预计将增加约10%。So I'll now go on to talk about how we will support self-employed persons. For our self-employed persons, the SEPs, the government has progressively strengthened support for this segment of the workforce over the years. As announced at Budget 2022, eligible lower-income SEPs can receive enhanced workfare payouts of up to $2,800 from 2023. The government has worked with insurers to introduce prolonged medical leave insurance, which covers many self-employed drivers and riders. The Tripartite Alliance for Dispute Management provides mediation services to SEPs to address disputes with the service buyers, and SEPs can have their rights enforced at a small claims tribunal. One group of SEPs that we are paying closer attention to are those that work with online matching platforms, which provide transport and delivery services. Known as platform workers, they work as private hire car drivers and taxi drivers, or deliver food and goods to our consumers. The government shares the concerns that Mr. Louis Chua, Ms. Yo Wan Ling, Dr. Shahira Abdullah, Mr. Shahril Taha, Mr. Abdul Samad, and Ms. Hazel Phua have raised about the welfare and job opportunities for platform workers. Mr. Dongwi also highlighted this issue at his budget debate. With the emergence of digital platforms, it is now easier for people to source for work on online platforms. The profile of platform workers is diverse. We find that the majority of those who depend on platform work as their main job are older residents aged 50 and above, with non-tertiary qualifications, although delivery riders tend to be younger than other groups. Platform workers have consistently cited flexibility as a reason for taking up platform work. Some do it to supplement their main source of income, while others rely on it as their main source of income. Earlier this week, the Institute of Policy Studies, IPS, published a study on platform work, involving a survey of more than 900 private hire car drivers and in-depth interviews with both the drivers as well as the delivery riders. The study found that the flexibility offered by platform work comes with caveats. For instance, platform workers often have to follow working arrangements and pricing policies set by the platforms, which can change without their consent. Some have indicated that they view platform work as a temporary arrangement and would like to transit to regular employment. Even as we support them in their job search through career matching services and programs under the SG United Jobs and Skills package, they may still face challenges, such as lacking the time, job hunt, or having the requisite skills to take on new jobs. This is a complex issue, but clearly more needs to be done to close the gap in the protections provided for platform workers to ensure a fairer relationship between the platforms and the platform workers. Hence, we convened an advisory committee in September last year that includes representatives from tripartite partners to review this carefully. Since then, the committee has been consulting widely through a public consultations exercise. I would like to take this opportunity to share some of our preliminary observations from the exercise. On retirement and housing adequacy, most platform workers express concern over their ability to meet both current and future needs. More than half of platform workers who responded to our public consultation exercise felt that mandatory CPF contributions to their special or ordinary accounts would be important for their retirement and housing needs. And on this issue, the IPS survey found that 84% were worried about whether they have enough savings for retirement. Take the example of Ms. Pei Xin Xuan, a 28-year-old who has been working as a food delivery rider for many years. For a period, it also served as her main income. It was a full-time job at that point in time. But over time, she found that the irregular earnings without CPF contributions and the sheer physical demands of platform work took a toll on her, financially, physically, mentally. Furthermore, Ms. Pei recently applied for a BTO flat with a fiancé. Like many young Singaporeans, she hopes to use her CPF savings to finance her flat and would like more support to help riders like herself better save up for their long-term needs. Clearly, this concern warrants intervention. Failure to do so will result in unmet needs in the future and impose costs on other parts of society. Today, platform workers already contribute up to 10.5% of their earnings to their MediSave accounts. The committee is considering the idea of requiring platform companies to make CPF contributions to support the retirement and housing needs of platform workers. Platform companies have raised concerns that such a move will result in a sudden increase in business costs, something which I can understand. So an option being considered is a phased approach, which will allow time for the platform ecosystem to adjust. To Ms. Hazel Pua's suggestion to allow a special scheme that allows platform workers to contribute and withdraw CPF on demand, I do not wish to prejudge the deliberation of the committee, but I would like to make a few clarifications. Firstly, there are already private saving products which are available in the market for everyone, including platform workers. It is common for returns to be commensurate with the length of holding the funds in the account, such as a fixed deposit account. It is impractical to have our cake and eat it by allowing platform workers to withdraw and deposit on demand, like a savings account, while still enjoying the interest rates higher than what is being offered by a fixed D account, for example, in the banks. Secondly, allowing withdrawals on demand will also go against the objective of improving their long-term retirement adequacy. by setting aside savings for old age and allowing the compounding of interest to take place over time. So I would say that the PSP's suggestion and Ms. Pua's suggestion is populist but impractical. On the financial protection in the event of work injury, platform workers said they were concerned that injuries would affect their livelihoods and that the insurance coverage provided was not consistent across different platform companies. We're heartened by the general consensus among platform companies that they should provide some coverage against work injuries. The committee is exploring how the overall WICA framework, the Work Injury Compensation Act framework, can be applied in this setting. But the committee also recognizes that any solution will need to take into account the nature of platform work, including flexibility in working time and the ability to work for more than one platform simultaneously. On the issue of representation, some platform workers said that they lack avenues to voice their concerns and expressed hope that the unions could represent and assist them if there were disputes. Others wanted a say in contract terms that impact their well-being. We are encouraged that in response, platforms have indicated their willingness to support good industrial relations and improve working conditions of platform workers. Suggestions from the platforms include the establishment of industry-wide norms through tripartite discussions or with an independent body. The advisory committee will be studying these possible solutions, including the idea for unions to represent the platform workers. Mr. Patrick Tay asked if the ministry will be reviewing the Employment Act. Well, we do regularly review our legislation, including the Employment Act, in consultation with tripartite partners to ensure that they are relevant. Several major policy reviews are still ongoing, such as in relation to the work of the Advisory Committee for Platform Workers. It is too early to say how the recommendations will be implemented or what legislative changes are needed. We will consider the recommendations holistically and see how to ensure that our legislative frameworks can support the policies. The eventual recommendations will contribute towards a more sustainable equilibrium, where one where the cost of labor protections are more equitably distributed and shared across the stakeholders in the platform ecosystem. So I will now talk about our migrant worker community. The COVID-19 pandemic has been a challenging time for everyone, not least for our migrant workers. They have shown remarkable resilience during the COVID-19 pandemic. Their health and well-being have been a priority over the past year. As of 20th February 2022, 99.4% of migrant workers residing in dormitories are fully vaccinated. During the last COVID-19 wave in September, migrant workers who tested COVID-19 positive were given timely access to medical support through regional medical centers, mobile clinical teams, and telemedicine consults. Most experienced mild or no symptoms and were able to recover safely in recovery facilities, with fewer than 0.1% requiring hospitalization. Beyond physical health, we co-created a mental health support ecosystem for migrant workers with our partners, including the Migrant Worker Center, the MWC, and HealthServe. To date, close to 600 frontline officers have been trained in basic psychological first aid, and more than 200 migrant worker peer leaders have undergone self-care and peer support training. They help to detect signs of distress among migrant workers more quickly and link them up with counseling, services, and support helplines in their native languages. As mentioned in my response to the adjournment motion put forth by Mr. Louis Ng last month, and in response to Mr. Leon Pereira's question on easing of restrictions on migrant workers, let me say that migrant workers can visit any recreation center or RCs daily since September 2021. Vaccinated migrant workers are allowed on community visits, and as of mid-February 2022, more than 95,000 migrant workers have visited the community. The current community visit quotas are not fully used up. We will also be easing in steps the quota, the restrictions, and will take this as the COVID situation improves. From 18th of February, we have also stepped down the requirement for migrant workers to undergo the rostered routine testing, or the RRT. This will provide a return to normalcy for these workers. We are also prioritizing the granting of entry approvals for migrant workers to return to Singapore after they go on their home leave. This will facilitate them to go on home leave for visits. As we restore economic activities, we will need to continue bringing workers into Singapore safely and help newly arrived migrant workers settle in. Therefore, in March last year, we started the migrant worker onboarding centers, which have now been renamed onboard centers. These function as a one-stop center for newly arrived migrant workers, bringing together various entry requirements into an integrated and seamless end-to-end process. Workers can serve their stay-home notice as required, complete a medical examination, and undergo a residential settling-in program, all under one roof. To date, more than 55,000 workers have gone through the onboard centers. Going forward, MOM will continue to improve the well-being of our migrant workers by fortifying housing standards, improving medical support, and increasing recreation options. First, fortifying housing standards is an ongoing process and is necessary to create a safer and more comfortable living environment for our migrant workers. As announced last year, the government will build 2 new purpose-built dorms, PBDs, at Kranji and Jalan Tukang. These dormitories will be built to improve standards to minimize future outbreak of diseases. We will also work with dormitory operators and their partners to test new and innovative ideas for dormitory living and management. MOM is also reviewing the Foreign Employee Dormitories Act, FEDA, to expand its coverage to smaller dormitories with fewer than 1,000 beds. Second, we will support employers in managing healthcare costs while improving medical support for migrant workers. I will talk about this in the outpatient setting and the inpatient setting. On the outpatient front, as announced on 19th of February 2022, employers will be required to purchase a primary care plan, or PCP, for migrant workers with effect from 1st April this year. MOM has appointed 4 medical service providers to deliver primary care services over 6 geographic sectors. This integrated primary care system builds on the medical support plan that we set up amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Migrant workers can expect to access a range of primary care services, including acute and chronic care, 24/7 telemedicine services, as well as mobile clinical teams to ensure rapid responses to public health emergencies or concerns in dormitories. The appointed medical service providers will minimize language and cultural barriers in care provision through hiring healthcare workers who can speak the native languages of our migrant workers. Employers can purchase the PCP at a fixed fee of between $108 to $138 for each worker per year, or about $9 to $12 per worker a month. This gives employers cost clarity and will meet most of the primary care needs of their workers. To mitigate the moral hazard of overconsumption and instill personal responsibility, migrant workers will also be required to co-pay a small fee, ranging from $2 for a telemedicine session to $5 for each visit to the medical center. This PCP will be made mandatory for all workers living in the dormitories or working in the construction, marine shipyard, and process sectors as part of work pass requirements. Now, on the inpatient front, MOM will enhance the coverage of the mandatory medical insurance to better protect employers against large medical bills for their work permit, S-Pass holders, including those of migrant domestic workers. Today, employers are responsible for the medical expenses of their work permit and S-Pass holders that are incurred in Singapore. Unlike that of locals, the medical bills of migrant workers and migrant domestic workers, or MDWs, are not subsidized. They are also not covered under the national schemes such as MediShield Life and MediFund. To help employers better manage the medical bills of their migrant workers, employers are required to purchase a medical insurance with at least $15,000 coverage for their work permit and S-Pass holders. As medical costs are expected to increase over the years, more employers may end up incurring larger out-of-pocket expenses on their workers' medical bills. So to provide employers a greater peace of mind in financing their workers' inpatient and day surgery bills, the coverage of the mandatory medical insurance will be enhanced with the following features. First, we will maintain the first dollar cover of at least $15,000. This ensures that the bulk of employers whose workers' medical bills fall under $15,000 continue to be fully protected under the enhanced model. On average, there are over 1,000 employers per year who face bills that are larger than $15,000. A co-payment component will be introduced for them, up to an annual claim limit of at least $60,000. This ensures that healthcare costs remain affordable and sustainable. Let me illustrate this with an example. Under today's existing requirement, if a migrant worker or migrant domestic worker incurs a $70,000 bill, the insurer will cover the first $15,000, and the employer will be left to bear the remaining $55,000. Now, with the enhanced medical insurance, the insurer will continue to cover the first $15,000 in full as per today. For the remaining $55,000, the insurer will co-pay 75%, while the employer will pay the remaining bill. This means that the employer pays $13,750, which is significantly lower than the $55,000 he would otherwise need to fork out today. The second enhancement is that we will standardize a list of baseline allowable exclusions across insurers. This will provide greater clarity to employers on the coverage that they are entitled to. For example, insurers may exclude procedures that are not medically necessary, treatments arising from the workers' criminal acts, or repeat occurrences of undesirable acts by workers, such as self-inflicted injuries as well as venereal diseases. Insurers may also exclude treatments for pre-existing illnesses that occurs within the first 12 months of the worker's employment with the same employer. The third enhancement is that insurers will have to offer age-differentiated premiums for workers aged 50 and below, and those who are above the age of 50. This will help to keep premiums affordable for the vast majority of employers, given that 95% of our migrant workers and migrant domestic workers are below 50 years old. The fourth enhancement will require insurers to reimburse the claims for inpatient and day surgery bills directly to the hospitals, instead of making employers pay for their workers' medical treatment upfront and then claim it from the insurers later. This will help employers who are cash-strapped and free up cash flow for businesses and help families having migrant domestic workers in this process. Employers with existing work permit and S-Pass workers will also progressively transition onto the new medical insurance policy when they renew their work passes. The enhanced coverage for medical insurance will be effective for all new work pass applications by the end of 2022. The enhancements have been carefully calibrated to provide better support for businesses and migrant domestic worker employers in managing large medical bills, while keeping premiums affordable. I want to thank employers, industry associations, and NGOs who have expressed their support for the enhanced medical insurance during our engagements with them. The third area we want to do for our migrant workers is to enhance their social well-being and recreational needs. Our partnership with NGOs and other whole-of-society partners have been crucial in helping us to support our migrant workers. We have been working hand in hand with our migrant worker community too, as they would better understand the needs of their fellow workers. Mr. Rajarathinam Sankaralingam has been a dorm supervisor since 2012 and assigned to oversee activities in 2 dorms. On top of his regular activities and duties such as conducting briefings to fellow migrant workers on the latest government advisories and guidelines, Mr. Lingam often goes above and beyond by accompanying residents who require medical treatment at hospitals, even when these incidents take place at night. We are thankful for their partnership. We are working with NGO partners to make our 8 recreation centers livelier by bringing in more programs and activities that our migrant workers enjoy, such as retail bazaars, as well as sports and cooking competitions. A 9th recreation center will be ready later this year in Sembawang. Workers are able to visit the recreation centers for essential activities like topping up and purchasing telephone cards, going to the barber, buying groceries, as well as for other recreational activities such as movie screenings, live performances, and meeting their friends. As mentioned earlier,
SMS Koh, my apologies for having to stop you. As we are approaching 7:30 p.m., I would have to invite the Deputy Leader to move the exempted business motion. Deputy Leader.
Sir, may I seek your consent to move that the Chairman do leave the chair? This is to enable me to move a motion to take proceedings on the business of supply today beyond 7:30 p.m.
I give my consent. Leader.
So I'd like to move that the Chairman do leave the chair.
The question is the motion moved by the Leader. As many as are of the opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may I seek your consent and the general assent of members to move a motion to take this day's proceedings on the estimates of the financial year 2022-2023 beyond 7:30 p.m.
I give my consent. Does the Leader of the House or the Deputy Leader of the House have the general assent of honourable members present to so move?
Aye.
Deputy Leader, please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the proceedings on the business of supply be proceeded beyond 7:30 for today's sitting.
The question is the motion moved by the Deputy Leader of the House. As many as are of the opinion say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Resumption of debate under Head S, Ministry of Manpower. Dr. Koh.
Thank you, sir. So as mentioned earlier, migrant workers have been visiting the community. Today, the visit slots are not fully utilized, but we're prepared to adjust the quota to allow more migrant workers to visit the community as the COVID-19 situation improves. Mr. Chairman, to help sustain the resilience of our workforce, we have put in place measures to drive workforce transformation, to uplift our vulnerable workers, as well as transform the migrant worker ecosystem by improving existing healthcare, housing, and recreational needs. As we continue our work for these groups of workers, there is still much work to be done for others, such as our platform workers. Strengthening our workforce will always be a priority to ensure that we remain resilient in future storms. Thank you, sir.